What's up, Dragon Brood? So today I'm bringing you my second video in what we're calling our socially distanced local game store series of interviews. For those of you who don't know and aren't familiar with my channel or the streams, I originally had a plan to visit all these different game stores, talk about their big events, the history of their businesses, but then unfortunately all the coronavirus stuff happened. So we put everything on hold and now we're doing these socially distanced interviews and we're trying to find out how everybody's been affected across the country. So this week we're getting to talk to Sara Erickson from Rooks Games and More in Montana. And this is going to be a good one because it'll give everybody a chance to see how do things differently get affected, I guess, in places like rural Montana versus like an urbanized place like Ohio, parts of Ohio, I guess. Anyway, let's take a look at her store because her store is fabulous. It's well lit, it's colorful, has a large variety of products. It's 5,300 square feet, which you wouldn't expect they would have that in a place like Montana, but they do, and it's real nice. Also sounds like Sara's got a lot of engagement with her community and a really engaged community that really supports her business. But you don't necessarily have to hear it from me. Let's hear it from her. Let's get into it. Yeah, so Sara, why don't you tell us kind of like how you even opened the store in the first place? Because it feels like everybody's got kind of a unique journey to how they all got to that first step.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I played Magic when I was in high school with my buddies, just sort of learned about the game. I actually learned about from Magic Online before I even knew what paper cards were, which is kind of a different way of getting to
You
it, but
did
it
it the
was
hard
fun.
way.
I did, but I learned the rules really well because you can't cheat on Magic Online. And so it
True.
made becoming a judge and all that type of stuff later on a lot easier, actually. So, yeah, I played Magic, met my husband in college. I graduated and got a good job, but he was a philosophy and economics major, which is fantastic, but not super easy to do anything relevant after just a bachelor's degree. So
Sure.
he was doing some odd jobs, and we both would go into the local comic store occasionally and pick up copies of Teen Titans Go because that was exciting at the time. And we found out that it was for sale. And we got excited and we got ready to go in and talk to him. And we went in and the owner said, "I'm sorry, it's already been sold." Somebody came in and put
Oh
cash on the
no.
table and walked out. No, so our dreams were dashed. Well, 6 months later, the new owner had taken over and was actually doing a really good job, but it just wasn't a good fit for him. He was really young and didn't quite have the experience that probably needed to have to build a community and all that. And so he said, "Hey, I knew you guys were trying to buy this. I'm ready to be out. Do you want to buy it
Oh.
from me?" And we go, "Oh, well, okay, let's do this again." Let's get all excited. So we did buy an existing store. It was about 800 square feet. It looked like we were probably dealing drugs in the back because it was not in a very nice location. But we always had this goal of making it a really nice community space, and had an opportunity to move about a year after we bought the business to a larger location that was nicer, more family friendly area, a lot cleaner, all that good stuff. So we did that. But as most store owners know, it's a little hard to do that, running a store at the same time you have another job and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I did work as a pulmonary immunologist. So I did vaccine research in a high security facility wearing all the PPE that everyone actually knows about now, which is kind of fun for me to watch the news, but in a little bit different way. So I was working in a lab like that, and our store was growing and we moved to a new location. Things were going really, really well. I was working in the lab during the day and working at the store at night, and eventually just said, "You know what, this is actually a real business. Like, we were just doing this because it was kind of fun and we thought it would be a fine thing to do on the side, but this is legitimate. Like, we're making money." So I quit my job at the lab, decided not to go back to grad school, and just start being the manager for the store. And that was awesome too. And then the 2008 recession happened. So this was obviously a long time ago. We've had our 14 years now, so we've been in business for a while, and we went through that recession, and it was scary, but we were okay. Like, we actually saw growth during those years. People started making hard decisions, like they didn't want to go to a movie with all of their kids because that would be a $60 adventure for just a couple hours of fun. So they came to our store and bought a $30 board game that they could play with their whole family instead. And we saw a lot of people making choices like that, not buying ski tickets, not going on big family vacations anymore, which it's hard to see that people had to make those tough choices, but we're really happy to be in a position to help and still give them entertainment and joy during a tough time, which is really a good lesson because we're kind of going through that again. So we were fine. We kept growing. Eventually, we got the business to a point where I felt like it was good for it to be able to run on its own. We needed to have policies and procedures in place where anyone could walk in and run the store and it would be fine. And strangely, the guy who we bought the business from, this is a few years later, had grown up a bit, still really loved the industry, and said, "Hey, I'll be your manager." So he actually took over the store again and took over my position and became the manager of the store when I decided to go work for Renegade Game Studios. So I still was able to have a business and watch over it like a kid that's gone to college now, and it's great, but I kind of keep my hands out of it as much as I can, which is hard because I still love it. But I've been able to work as a publisher, have a second income, have health insurance, all that kind of stuff that store owners are always worried about, and still keep the store at the same time. And so I've done that for the last 8 years now. And more recently, when global pandemic hit, all of our staff, we were able to keep them on, but we didn't want them to be coming into the store, exposing themselves to any problems, anything like that. So when we completely shut down, I sort of got the fun opportunity to go back to the store, do some renovations, really look at how everything was running, and just reevaluate and get to stick my fingers in there a little bit again, which was fun for me, actually. But now we've finally opened up again. So my staff is all in there. They're working. I don't have to go back. They've got it running again. So I kind of get to just look through the window once again. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. And it sounds like you do a lot as far as like entertaining families. So I'm assuming you have, I mean, looking at your pictures, you obviously carry a large swath, a variety of product categories. Like, what led you to making that decision, saying, because you started as a Magic player, like at what point did you say, well, hey, I need to have all these other things so we can make money as well?
Oh, yeah. I think it's really important when you look at it as a business to not just have the things that you care about, but know that there are a lot of people out there who might love chess sets or puzzles or all these other things that you may not have experience with, while still having champions of those things in your store who can talk about them and sell them. So we've done as much as we can to diversify our product lines, because when maybe there's a bad Magic set, not that that would ever happen, of course, but sometimes they just don't sell as well as other ones. Or maybe something happens with one of our miniatures games and it has a downturn. We want to have enough diversity in our products that we don't care if one of them goes down a little bit because we have something else to support it. And we do have the benefit of being the only store in town as well. It's not a huge town, so I don't think it could really support more than one good game store, but it's nice because we can do everything and not worry about another store taking away, say, our Warhammer business or something like that. So we carry Magic, board games, miniatures games. Those are our three main categories. We also do, of course, role-playing. We do comic books to some extent, and then painting, accessories, puzzles, anything else that we think gamers might care about. We are in a college town, so we try and focus on stuff that people would like who maybe hang out with their college buddies. We also have a really strong engineering background and a lot of engineering companies in town, which is great. They like games. They like using their brains. So we sell a lot of really strategic stuff. Really heavy Euros sell better for us than it seems like they do traditionally for other stores. We don't have a ton of like young family games, although we may think about moving into that a little bit because we just had a children's science museum and a daycare move in right next to us instead of a head shop and a hot dog place. So it's a little bit different community that we've suddenly found ourselves in.
Well, that sounds like that's going to be really convenient. Those are some markets you could really take advantage of.
I think so. Yeah, we'll have to change our mentality a little bit. Of children are scary, and we don't want them in our store. To they can make us money, so we have to think about that a little bit. None of us on staff have children, so we don't know how they work. They're weird, mysterious creatures,
You
but
know,
that's
that's the
okay.
thing though. When you're an entrepreneur, sometimes it's just a matter of seizing an opportunity when it presents itself, and you have to be able to pivot a little bit. So it sounds like you've already been thinking about that with your new neighbors coming in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everyone in this industry right now is thinking that way. I've been so impressed with all the ingenuity and how quickly people are pivoting and taking advantage of, say, puzzles. Like, that's a category that most of us knew existed, and maybe we had a few on our shelf, but nobody was paying attention to that in the way that they are now. And I think that's really fun to see that store owners are so easily able to modify their business and take advantage of big changes because we are small, we're entrepreneurs, and we're able to be that maneuverable when bigger companies like, say, Target maybe wouldn't be able to do that. So I think that's a really cool, neat thing about our industry.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like for me, the product was disc golf, that I got into years ago. And
Yeah,
people are like, really? Why are you doing that? And then it turns out this type of situation happens. And it's like, oh, that's an activity people can still go do. you know?
that's
So
fantastic.
so
Yeah.
it kind of just works out that way. It's kind of funny. But yeah, you mentioned obviously, having issues with the staff and everything else, trying to figure out how you're going to manage that as all of this hit. Kind of how difficult was that? And because I'm sure your staff has a bunch of different emotions going on and worrying about their job. Like, how did you get through those first couple of weeks with all the news coming out all at once?
So our staff was understandably concerned, but I think with any weird big thing that happens, communication is key. And just letting our staff know that we've applied for the PPP loan. Oh, hey, we got approved. We got it. We're holding you guys on. We have this much money in the bank. We're not worried about having to lose you guys. Just sit tight. We'll get there. These are the changes we're making, and then asking them questions too. Like, communication is two ways. How comfortable do you feel doing deliveries? Are you okay being in the store wearing a mask? Are you okay with people coming into the store with or without a mask? And for each one of our employees, the answers to those questions were different. And
Sure.
we're lucky in that we're relatively small. And so we were able to pick things for each one of them to do that both fit the hours that we wanted to give them and their comfort level of what was going on. Because there's no rules here. There's no one to tell you this is going to be safe or not. There's just, we've got to play it by ear. And I think that has been a big lesson for everyone right now, and definitely with our staff.
Yeah, that's totally true. And you also mentioned, having to be kind of creative and come up with things. So what things have you and your store kind of changed that you didn't do before that are now going to be kind of in place going forward?
Yeah, and really, a lot of those things change on a daily basis as we get new information. But one of the first things we did was we realized that we had a plan in place to redo all the carpeting in our stores starting on the 4th of July weekend, because we, like most stores, don't like to close unless we have to, because every single day we bring in money. And so we try and make any big changes like that on days when we would be closed anyway. Well, we already had half of the carpet that we had found at an auction, and we were ready to go with that. So we ordered the other half of the carpet. We're able to get it in despite all of the craziness that was going on. And my husband and I, on our own, pulled out all of the carpet in the store and replaced it all with the new
Oh,
carpet ourselves, which was an incredible amount of work. But it was really good to just have this really fresh, clean look for when people were able to come back into the store. But what also gave us the opportunity to pull everything off of the sales floor and everything out of our event space and condense all of the event space area into what we lovingly call our garage, which is just this sort of back area that we use occasionally when we need expansion space. And then we could extend our entire retail space so that there's a lot more room between every fixture. People would have an ability to social distance if they wanted to, and just make it a lot more comfortable in there. So that was one thing that we did right off the bat. And then as we were getting closer and closer to opening, trying to think about what do we need as far as cleaning products go. Obviously, that's been really hard to find for a lot of people. So we found a local distillery that had converted all of their equipment into making hand sanitizer for the hospital. Well, they had enough. They didn't need to sell it to the hospital anymore, but they still weren't open anymore quite yet. So they were making kits for businesses like ourselves where you could just buy a kit much cheaper than trying to get price gouge things off Amazon and set it up in our store as a little
Oh,
hand
that's awesome.
sanitizer station. Yeah, it was great. So I recommend if you're still looking for cleaning products for your store, go to your local distillery and see what they're working on. And it smells like grain alcohol. So that's an added bonus, right? Got some whiskey flavored hand sanitizer.
I'm sure there are people that will love that.
Yeah. So that's been one change we've had is just making sure that we're really, really clean and bright. I mean, that's not necessarily a change. We've always tried to do that, but we've upped our game a little bit, I think, there. And that's definitely been nice for a lot of reasons.
And as we've started to open up stores, we've been hearing all types of stories from everybody from like, these are some of our best days since Christmas to like, well, people are trickling in and, everybody's getting comfortable. So, kind of what's it like in your neck of the woods right now?
Both, actually, very strangely. So I think Montana is in a good position to be in a very safe place as far as we have been social distancing for forever because we have infinite space and people don't
Sure.
like being close to each other. I don't think you moved to Montana because you want to hang out really close to next to people at a club. Like we don't
More
have
cows than
those.
people in Montana.
Exactly. Um, so yeah, we haven't had a lot of cases. People are not scared of it. It's a lot more relaxed here. I mean, there's more concern about financial disruption than about health and safety. So we were obviously closed for a long time. We got our shutdown order on April 27th, and then I'm sorry, March 28th, and we opened on April 27th. So we were closed for almost exactly 1 month. And when we opened back up, we had a week of really good days. We've been doing deliveries, but we hadn't had an online store previous to that, and people just weren't really super into it. They just didn't want to do the online thing. So we've been doing very small amounts of deliveries. When we opened back up, we had some great days. The whole first week we were open, we were doing above average numbers. Then the Magic release hit, and we had the second best sales day we have ever had in
Oh,
14 years
wow.
of being open, which was crazy. But of course, there's a lot of Magic product all landing at once, which is unusual. And then since then, we've had some days that were honestly dismal. So it's hard to say where that's going to land, but I am hopeful and optimistic that it's going to be okay for the rest of the year. Not a little slow, maybe even a little bit up, like we saw during the recession in 2008. Because what else do you do? Like if
Yeah.
you here, you can go hiking, but you can't go on a fancy vacation. You can't go to a concert. They've all been canceled. Any other activity that you would want to do is now gone. And even things like Netflix or streaming services, there are no TV shows being shot right now. There's no new movies that they're making right now. There's going to be a point where you've watched so much TV that you're just over it and nothing new is happening. So I don't know why we can't use that as an opportunity to get even more people into this wonderful hobby. So that's our plan.
Yeah, I think so too. It's oftentimes it feels like in different countries when there's some type of major disaster, it seems like hobby games seem to get a little bit of a boost. Whether it's because you can entertain a lot of people cheaply, or it's something you can do just with friends, or whatever it is. There's something comforting and convenient about a lot of the games that you're going to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to have something to do with your brain that's not on a screen because so many people are now working from home or like I said, their only entertainment option is watching a screen that they want to disconnect a little bit. And board games are great for that. They burn up that brain energy without just sitting in front of a screen. So I'm
For
really grateful
sure.
we're part of this industry for that reason.
Yeah, one of the other things I want to ask too, especially as you're now getting back to opening and trying to restock things, have you run into any issues, I don't know, either industry wise or not, as far as restocking things or supplies or games because of all the supply issues through the system right now?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we were open before most of the country was. So, of course, there's certain distributors that have exclusives and things that are just only going to be in one place that we just couldn't order. For the most part, it hasn't been terrible. I think before this week, we were down to about 80% of the stock we normally like to have in the store, which is getting to the point where we have sold so many things that it's really a little bit more obvious which things we shouldn't have had on the so again, there's always a silver lining, and it gives us an opportunity to really look at our stock a little bit more closely and maybe put some things on sale, which we never do. But that gave us data that we didn't have before. So I think that's really valuable, even though it was a little frustrating to run out of Catan, but these things happen. So people will just appreciate it more when we have it back in stock again. So it'll be great.
Yeah, I think that you've touched on a very good topic there. I think, if nothing else, take away all the information you can from this type of situation because it's probably the only time we're going to have something this drastic to find out all these little bits and pieces you never would have considered before.
Oh, there's so much cool data we can jump into right now. Like my dad is a geologist actually, and just looking at little things like they're able to take seismograph readings of places like London and see what natural activity is going on from a geological standpoint without all the noise of the road traffic, which usually completely ruins their calibrations and messes up all of their readings. So I love that because it's this cool science nature thing that we get to do right now that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And I do think there's a lot of analogies for us in the game industry. Like what happens when people have all these other entertainment options removed from their system? What do they like doing and what industries do they go to for that comfort? And all of that kind of information, all that data that we can find, let's use it and do something cool with it. So I'm really excited to keep getting those numbers and looking at them.
And another thing I want to ask is, especially with you being kind of the only store in town, I'm sure you have a good connection with your community there. Like, how have they responded to everything as far as you like having to close or being out of stuff or whatever with everything going on right now?
So the very first post we put up about it, we said, "Hey, we're following the orders. We want to keep everybody safe. We're closing. We don't know what's going to happen." And it was awesome to see the response from people saying, "Thank you. We really appreciate that you care about us. We're going to support you. Just
Oh,
hang
that's
tight.
nice.
We're all good." So that was really, really cool to see that. And beyond that, I think I've seen a lot of groups coming together and doing things like board game Discord channels. We have a board game group in our store that meets every Monday and Thursday. They really wanted to keep doing that because they're all friends and that's time that they've already set aside and they just couldn't handle not having that for themselves. And so they set up a Discord channel that we now go into and hang out with them there. But this last week, so they've been doing that for about a month and a half now. And this last week, they were like, "Oh, we're so sad we can't just play with real pieces. Like, this is fine. We're happy we have something, but I want to get together and play games again." So I know there's frustration there at some level, but they're all being realistic and really nice about it. And we've had conversations with them too, just like with our staff, saying, "What is your comfort level for coming into the store with, say, people from your household or your close,
Mm.
tight knit friends? Would you want to come in and sit across the table from somebody else, or is that still too scary for you?" And I think it's going to be, again, a different answer for every community, for every group of people, but being able to offer things in a safe way and give your communities a way that they can decide those types of things, I think is really important. And it's going to be hard. I don't have good answers for any of that. And anyone who tells you they do is wrong. But I think it's important to continue that conversation so at least people know that they're being heard, even if you can't give them exactly what they want.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done a good job keeping in touch with the community and just engaging them in a way that lets them still feel involved in the process, which I'm sure that gives them some sense of normalcy and comfort as well, which is pretty nice.
I think it's important. I wish we have done even more of it, but we're doing what we can. We've done a few fun things, like we did a virtual puzzle unboxing sale one night
Oh,
where we had a huge pile of new puzzles come in. And so we opened them one at a time, showed the people on Facebook Live, and then put the link to go and buy them on our online store. So we did that. when people couldn't come into the store yet, just as a fun little community event. And more stuff like that. I think magic box openings, opening those packs in front of your Facebook Live community or whoever, whatever else you can get together. I think that's just really fun and does gives people that sense of being together, even if we can't be yet.
Yeah, I think those types of efforts are going to be interesting to see going forward. That as stores have discovered them, do they make them a normal part of their business for just, I guess, what we'll call normal life when we get back to it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if we will or not. But again, it's a good excuse to collect some data and see what our community likes. And I do think we're going to find things that we never would have been motivated to try before that suddenly, well, we don't have any hours for this staff member because we only need one person on the floor and we're not running a magic event. So what can we have this staff member do that would be interesting because we still want to keep paying them? And we're trying out things that we never would have tried before. So I think that's neat.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job as far as just finding ways to get through this and getting the people back into the store, it sounds like. So it's very cool. It's good to see the positive stories among all of the like tragedy that's happening right now as well. But one of the things I
Yeah.
want to ask you is, do you have a piece of advice you would give people, or even just players and customers or gamers in general, that are looking to their stores or trying to get through this or are frustrated with everything going on, and how they should be addressing or engaging their stores while the stores are going through some of these tough times?
Yeah, so I guess my advice for the customers would just be reach out to your store and ask, find out what's going on, just see what their challenges are right now because we're all in this together and there's a good chance that each individual person can help other people in really unusual ways right now. Like I never would have a million years imagined that a distillery could help us with safety products. So there's just really cool stuff going on like that right now. And for stores, it's really all just about communicating and looking for unique things you can do that make people feel like they care, that you want them in your store, even if you can't have them in there yet, but you want them to still be part of your community and just reaching out. Like there was a local business here in town that right when all this happened, it was clear to the business owner that people are having a tough time mentally, just trying to deal with all of this, all these changes, all the uncertainty. And so she said, hey, I'm on Facebook Live. I know you guys are scared right now. I have these boxes of seeds from my garden and nice little notes. Write to me if you're having a tough day and I'll just send you one. I have 5 of
Oh,
them. First 5 people who let me know, I'm just going to put these in the mailbox right now. And that is not something that's really part of her business, but it was so like thoughtful and just made some people feel really, really good. And I love that she did that. And I think that's something that we could do because we have communities and a lot of the people in our communities right now are suffering, are uncertain, don't know what's going to happen next. Just doing something that makes them feel like they're still being looked after is really important.
yeah, I think that's really, really great advice. I just, kind of like we talked about a little bit before we got started, is this is all new to everybody. Everyone's kind of making it up as they go along. So you're going to have to kind of give everybody a little bit of leeway while they figure out how to deal with everything.
And I think that it's unusual in our society. We have so many rules, so many clear cut ways of dealing with things. Everybody knows when they get into the car, you put your seatbelt on, and that you have some person who has inspected your car that's told you that it's safe, all of these things. And suddenly we're all in a position where we don't have that safety net or that advice or those rules anymore. And interestingly, when I worked in the lab, one of the things that we did was set up a building to work with infectious diseases. And it was my job, along with a team of people, to convert an old cow barn
Ooh.
into a high equipment, like high tech safety building that would keep the community safe from the diseases we were working with, and then also the people who are working in there safe. And I thought for sure, I was, a 21-year-old, whatever. And I thought for sure there just is going to be a document that says, do these things, check off this list, and everyone will be safe and happy. And the farther and farther I went down that rabbit hole, it was more and more obvious that we had a unique building. we had unique diseases we were working with, and there was no one on the planet who could tell us how to do it right. But there were lots of things that we could do to just use our own common sense to set up that building and set up procedures on how to work in it that would be okay and be safe for us to be there. And we're all in that exact same situation right now. So just take a deep breath, use some common sense, and I think you'll be okay.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to wrap things up. I think that was a good piece of advice to end on. But yeah, I want to
I
say
do have
thanks.
one
Oh
other
yeah, go
really
for it.
quick thing
Yeah, what do you
I
got for me?
forgot about earlier. So one really quick thing. I'm wearing this shirt, Back to Come Back. So this is a program that's being spearheaded by Diamond Comics, and I think it's really cool. Basically, they're trying to do a big social media push where they get people to talk about stories and post pictures about things that they have bought at their local game store, local comic book store, and tell their friends, share it on social media, along with the hashtag Back to Come Back. So if you would like to be part of this program, there's no fee, nothing crazy. Just tell your customers, hey, Back to Come Back. Remind people about their local store and tell us stories about what you love about being here. And I think that's another good community thing we can do, just share why this store matters to you. So I would love it if people shared that and helped us
Oh
out.
yeah, that's very cool. I will definitely put a reminder. And do they have a website for it that I can leave a link for as well?
Yeah, just search for Back to Come Back and you'll find it.
Awesome. I will make sure I include that. Thanks for taking time this afternoon, Sarah. I know it's kind of in the middle of everything while we're all trying to get moving again, but these type of stories I think are very cool to share with people. I want to say thanks again to Sarah for taking time out of her day to really give us insight on her business and kind of how she's weathered the storm with all of this coronavirus stuff happening. And if you have a store you'd like for me to talk to and interview, let me know down below in the comments, or just reach out to them and have them contact me. Like, I'm definitely interested in talking to stores from all over the country and keeping that perspective open, because as we're seeing, they're dealing with similar issues, just having to deal with them in different ways because the communities are different. But if you like this video, please hit the like button and remember to hit the subscribe button, as we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. We're making really good progress right now. And when you do that, remember to hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever we have more of these interviews up. But that's all I have for you today. We'll see you next time.